So I have a new background because I just got a couch. I haven't had a couch ever in this apartment, so I'm excited. And let me just show you. She's sleeping. She was back there during this whole video. But thank you guys for tuning in. Every state has a reason to care about climate change, and today we're going to explore what Vermont's reason is. So thank you for watching. So before I begin to talk about climate change in Vermont, I want to give a brief history of the Vermont legislature. Although it has the making of a Republican state, it being rural, agricultural, and over 95% white, despite all of this, they're actually a blue state. But up until the 90s, Vermont had only ever voted one Democratic nominee, and in fact, they were one of the two states who never voted for Franklin Roosevelt. And they have come a long way from here. I mean, they currently have a open Democratic socialist who has been very vocal about climate change, Bernie. And he actually recently announced his re-election campaign, saying, "Serving the people of Vermont and fighting for working families across the country is the honor of a lifetime. Working together over the past few years, we have accomplished a great deal, but much more remains to be done." And, is Vermont lucky to have Bernie? I really wish he had been president, but shit happens. It's fine. So there's a really good and heartwarming op-ed. I almost said opt that I'm gonna link below. It's about how it's important to take climate action in the state of Vermont, and it calls the things that need to be done, and it's actually pretty realistic about how they need the price of electric cars to go down if they want to make it a viable solution for transportation. And it also states that only when we tackle each aspect of an industry within the climate economy will we succeed. The Vermont Congressman and U.S. Ambassador George Perkins Marsh wrote an in-depth summation of man-made climate change. His book laid out how man changed the world for the worse and how it was eventually going to bury us in dust. His bestseller first hit shelves in 1864. I didn't missay that. You heard that right. 1864. Marsh is considered by some Americans to be one of the first environmentalists, as he was the first to recognize the irreversible impact of our actions. He was born in Woodstock, Vermont, and it was his experience growing up in this environment where he first recognized how man was negatively impacting the environment and how clearing trees led to flooding and increased temperatures. In 1849, he wrote, "Having been personally engaged to a considerable extent of clearing lands, I have had occasion to both observe and feel the effects resulting from an injudicious system of managing woodlands." He also insisted that to save the planet, we have to be more responsible about our interactions and replanting forests, clearing waterways, and replenishing soil phosphate. Let me be the first to say, what the fuck? This guy is literally saying this in the 1800s when the Industrial Revolution was first beginning. Before shit went downhill and got out of control, he was already acknowledging that we had a problem. And this was when it was happening. If you've ever seen the Keeling curve, it takes off after the Industrial Revolution. It was barely going up, and he had already identified that there was an issue here. And we have continued to refuse to listen. It's been over 200 years since we discovered climate change, and nothing has changed other than now some people are legitimately denying it. In 1785, Thomas Jefferson even noted, "A change in our climate is taking place very sensibly. The elderly inform me the earth used to be covered with snow about 3 months of every year. The rivers, which then seldom failed to freeze over in the course of the winter, scarcely ever do now." And then in 1818, James Madison warned against the injudicious deforestation. It's not a political stance. It's just fact. Imagine the people who weren't in power who were noticing this. We'll never get to know what they thought or what they said, but they must have felt it. It must have been a collective thing that they knew about, because if Thomas Jefferson is saying there's a change in our climate in 1785, and then this book wasn't published until like almost a decade later, a little bit less than, or sorry, not a decade, almost a century later, a little bit less than a century, like there was clearly something happening. And they were all feeling the effects of it, and now we're feeling more effects of it, but we're just denying it because we have air conditioning and heaters, and we can just pretend that the climate outside is not changing because we're inside, like. And currently, the place where Marsh first voiced his opinions about climate change is seeing negative impacts to the economy because of this same climate change that we knew was coming. Maple trees have long been one of the most recognizable traits to Vermont, and you know something is important if they have a festival to celebrate it. In April 18th, Vermont celebrated their 52nd annual Maple Festival, and currently the state produces the most maple syrup in the country, accounting for 35% of all the maple syrup produced in the U.S. Vermont even has a law making it illegal to label a product on a restaurant menu or food package as maple if it's not pure maple. Like, they care about their maple, all right? So a little bit about maple syrup. Sugaring season begins in late February and ends in April, but due to the shifting weather patterns and the effects that it's having on the Vermont climate, seasons are being cut off short. Trees are usually not tapped until they mature to be about 40 years old and about 10 to 12 inches in diameter. As the tree's diameter increases, more taps can be added, but only up to 4. When done properly, tapping does not pose any permanent damage to the tree, and some have even been tapped for over 100 years, so safe trees, they're okay. Each tap will yield an average of 100 gallons per sap season, producing about 1 quart of maple syrup. This basically means that it would take 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of maple syrup. The sap flows when temperatures begin to rise above freezing during the day but fall below freezing during the night. And the sap is then collected and gathered into tanks and brought to the sugar house where they are boiled in an evaporator. The sap then runs until the weather warms and the buds begin to form on the trees. So, a key component to the production is weather, and according to a study published in January 2018 in the journal Ecology, climate change has led to warmer, drier growing seasons and stunting the growth of sugar maples. The lead researcher, Inés Ibáñez, I really hope I said that right, ecology professor at the University of Michigan, used climate modeling to forecast the fate of sugar maples if nothing is done to curb greenhouse gas emissions. She says that the biggest trees will still be there, but they won't be growing as much, and the little saplings won't survive. So once the older trees start dying, there will be no new trees to replace them. And though her research primarily focused on tree growth rather than sap production, the two go hand in hand. If a tree stops growing, it won't be as productive. A research paper published in 2017 also found climate change could cause sugar maple habitat to decline, meaning it would take an additional 5 million taps to maintain current U.S. production levels, which were 4.27 million gallons last season. And though research shows it could take another 80 years before we dry out our sugar maple taps, if we stock up now, we can save our waffles from a syrup drought. And fun fact, maple syrup doesn't freeze, so you could just leave it in your freezer. Boom, problem solved. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you learned something new about Vermont. Before I let you go, I asked a couple of my friends to give me some Vermont facts to include at the end of this video. And one of them said that Ben & Jerry's was founded in Vermont, which, oh my god, I freaking love that ice cream. So, yay Vermont, thank you. And then, let me just say, when I asked for these facts, I said, literally tell me anything, like Vermont is a state, just like, I was kidding. But my friend said, it starts with a V. So if you didn't know that, Vermont starts with a V. Also, it's the home of the alleged Loch Ness Monster, whom they call Champ. And this one I thought was like pretty interesting. But in 1968, they banned, wait for it, she actually wrote wait for it, billboards done to preserve the natural beauty of Vermont. And yeah, next week we're going to be talking about the state of Washington. So if you have any interesting things that you want me to talk like any interesting facts you want me to include at the end, put them in the comments below and I might mention them, or I might just ask my friends again. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, and keep learning about climate change because it's happening and there's definitely reasons you should care about it.